G'day guys, it's Tim here. Today we're doing a little bit of a market update, and the thing that spurred me on to do the Facebook Live today was that while reviewing some of the statistics that I get coming out and running over them, basically what we've seen is we know that the Perth market has been certainly improving. But the jump that we've seen in the figures that have been released today has been much more significant than what we actually expected to happen. So I wanted to run through some of those figures with you because I think this is going to be incredibly interesting, particularly for a lot of our Perth clients, because we know Perth clients have a lot of property over here in Perth. Right, so the figure that in particularly grabbed my attention was in relation to the vacancy rate. So we certainly have seen a softening of rental prices over the past 12 to 18 months here in Perth. You know, off the back of the mining slowdown, you know, that saw a decrease in the interstate migration, and that then of course flowed on to property prices softening as well. What we've just seen in the last period, there has been a drop in the vacancy rate of 20%. So with the vacancy rate is now back down to 3.5%, which is certainly a lot more reasonable. Of course, I think it's going to be pushing much more tighter than that. But this is going to start to put a lot of upward pressure on rentals. And this really fits. So I was talking with one of our staff members earlier today, Cara, for those of you that know Cara Benton. Now, as many of you know, my philosophy is personally I rent. You know, I've rented my entire life, and it's a much better way of owning property rather than living in what you own. And a lot of my staff will follow my advice. They do something pretty similar. So, one of the things that Cara's been doing at the moment is she's actually been looking for a new rental property. And she was telling me about how the last couple of rental properties she's gone to expect that there's been more than, well, the last one she went to, there was almost 40 people at that rental inspection. They had to actually break down the inspection into two separate groups and take two separate groups of 20 people through the house each time. So, you know, we can certainly start to see, I mean, not only by the figures that we've seen released today, but also when you start to look out there in the market, that there is a much greater demand for rentals, which is obviously going to have that upward pressure on rental prices. Now, some other figures that kind of back up why this is happening is we saw the figures that came out. I think I did a Facebook Live about it just 2 weeks ago maybe, or maybe last week. Perth now has the fastest growing jobs market in the nation. So after certainly a period of higher unemployment off the back of the mining slowdown, we can start to see, and this is through commodity prices increasing. We're seeing a lot of mines. There's a Chinese mine that just announced that it's going to be reopening its mine due to the commodity prices. So we're seeing a lot more job opportunities becoming available in Perth. That's seen the unemployment rate drop. And of course, that has then also pushed and increased the interstate migration. So we always knew that over the last 18 months, 2 years, that Perth was entering the softer period of its market. But now what we're seeing is we're starting to see the upturn of the market coming. But it's certainly with those figures, it's coming much quicker than what we expected. Backing that up, so we're talking about rentals. So let's now talk about what sort of impact that this is actually having on prices. So now, and if we compare this to, say, 6 months ago, where Perth had zero growth markets, okay, so zero growth suburbs in the Perth market, what we've now got is over a dozen. Primarily, these are in the Perth, in the northern corridors, northern suburbs like Clarkson, Alkimos, Carramar. We've seen these now entering increased sales activity, increased sales prices. So that's really good signs for a lot of the people, particularly living in the north. This will flow on pretty soon to people living in the south as well. So we certainly don't want to get any arguments started about north and river, south of the river. If you're from Perth, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But really, really great signs. So look, guys, I mean, you know, like I said, you know, I mean, we've known that Perth has basically been coming off the bottom of the market, probably started about 6 or 12 months ago. You know, I still want to see probably a little bit more data before we have this as a highly recommended area to be getting into. Of course, it's always going to come down to people's individual situation where they should be buying. But for those people that either own their own home in Perth at the moment, or people that have investment properties in Perth, there's some really good signs coming down the pipeline. So great news for all the Perth people. All right, guys, that's all I pretty much got today. Just wanted to share that information with you. You know, thanks a lot for paying attention, tuning in. Love to hear your comments and your reactions. So if you like it, click like. If you love it, click love. If you have any questions, put the comments down below, and we'll get back to you and answer them as soon as we can. Another thing, I'm just actually going to be, after this weekend, I'm going to be heading off on a couple of weeks break, so might not see too many Facebook Lives from me coming up. I might jump on and do a couple while I'm away, but we'll see how we go. If not, we will catch up with you guys very, very soon. Thanks for being with us, and have a great day.